Services office, and welcome to the very long-awaited JETS pre-proposal conference. I hope you had enjoyed your weekend reading material. I realize that we dropped the solicitation 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, but heck, we're all in business and we know everything happens after 2 o'clock on Fridays so that you can't sneak out of the office early. All right, so we have a long agenda today. We're going to try to get as many questions, as much information out to you. Mike, how do I do this one? Yes. All right, but this is one of the very important announcements that I am asked to bring to you, is that the solicitation is the document that you're working off of, the RFP. The purpose of today's meeting, conference, is to go through the solicitation, highlight areas, discuss areas that we have questions on, relay to you interaction, and I hope we have interaction throughout the day, at the end of the day with questions, provide stronger clarity, and then for us, it's to take the information that we as acquisition professionals think it's just very easy peasy and everybody should understand it, and realize that it's too much government lingo and we have to make it to more reading ease. It's interaction, it's discussion. What you need to wait for is the amendments to the solicitation. It's the amendments to the solicitation that solidify all the comments, clarity, concerns, answers to questions that we have discussed here today. Okay, and Mike, towards the end, he's going to give you the plan and when different things will be coming out. And we'll work really hard to make sure we do it between 2 and 3 on Friday afternoons. Okay, that was my, I guess, second most important announcement. The next one is cell phones. Please make sure that your cell phones are turned off if you have cell phone service. I know my BlackBerry's not working too well right now. Put them on silent, put them on vibrate. We greatly appreciate that. All right. The exits, 2 sides of the auditorium. I wasn't an airline pilot, but I did it off of 2 sides in the back. In the event of an evacuation, please remain calm. Gather your personal belongings and proceed out of the auditorium by the nearest exit. Out the back. The DLA police will then be at the back and direct personnel to the appropriate evacuation areas, which are located outside of the building. You came down an elevator or steps, but there's actually, this goes outside from this back end. So don't be running up steps or elevators. Follow in case there's any emergency situation. And finally, as Joe mentioned, this presentation is being streamed and videotaped. To make sure everybody knows, you're asking questions, we're going to ask you to use the mic so that we have questions and answers, but to know that we're actually streaming this live and it will be videotaped. And with that, I'm actually going to turn it over to Mr. Bob Foster, who is Deputy of J6. And he will go over the vision of the enterprise.
Good morning. It's a great DLA day. Every day is great in DLA. It really and truly is. We get the opportunity to get up in the morning and we get to provide service and support to soldiers, sailors, airmen and women, and Marines around the world. And the job just doesn't get any better unless you're privileged to wear the uniform. So it's a great day in DLA. It's a great day for J6. You guys been waiting on this one a little while to come out? Yeah, because I get your emails, I know, okay? When's it coming out? Can you tell me anything, Bob? When? A lot of work has gone into this, but I think the product itself that you see in the RFP demonstrates that. A lot of thought has gone into it. What I want to do is just cover very, very shortly the journey that we're on in J6 and how this JETS plays into where our vision is of where we're headed to. Some of you may have heard this. Those that have, bear with me. The ones that haven't may be a little bit new. But Ms. Kathy Cutler is our J6, our Director of Information Operations in J6, also known as the CIO. When she came on board, one of the things that happened is the then Director, Vice Admiral Mark Harnachek, challenged DLA to save money He said, you know, we run a working capital fund. There's a cost recovery rate. That's sort of a little surcharge we put on everything that we sell so that we can put money back into the funds. So we can do things, buy things, and our intent is when they ask for it, we say, we thought you'd need it, we've got it, and we've got it right here and it's ready to issue to you, so that the warfighters never do without. But part of that is with the war in Afghanistan standing down, the services had a whole lot less money to spend, and they were hitting some real tough budget issues that they were dealing with. None of this is news to you if you watch the nightly news, any of the stations. So he said, we, DLA, owe it to our customers to be able to save them money. So he set some targets. Within J6, our target was about $240 million over the FIDP that we were going to save. Now, if you're in a service business like the IT side, the easy way to do that is reduce services. Just give them less. You know, you make the box a little bit smaller. You guys seen that when you go shopping? You know, same box, a little bit smaller so the cost is the same, or that's one way to do it. We don't believe that in J6. That's not the way we do business. In fact, we wanted to be able to give our customers more while still saving them dollars. All right, now common sense, you know, we've all heard the old expression, insanity is repeating the same thing that didn't work the first time. You know, so if we keep doing things the same way, and all of my directors were saying, I don't have enough money to start with, Mr. Foster, we need more. So if we keep doing business the way it was and we try to impose those type of savings, then what's ultimately going to happen was that reduction of service. So with Ms. Cutler's vision, we completely redesigned the J6 in the way that we provide services. We went from a geographically based IT organization where we had a director of IT services at each one of our, what we affectionately call PLFAs, but you all know them as Columbus, Richmond, Philadelphia, Battle Creek, all of our different sites where we have our major logistics activities. So we had a GS-15 who took the vision of the policy and the guidance of the CIO and implemented it, but they all implemented it differently. So we were all trying to do the same thing, but how we did it was quite a bit different. Well, her vision was, let's go out and let's form an IT organization around the ITEL model, because the ITEL model is based upon IT services. That's what it does. It breaks out all the different things that an IT organization does into services, and those services are going to be enterprise-wide. So, for example, one of the things that we noticed when we started doing this consolidation is printing services. Let's pick on our good friends at Document Services. We have document services that we run in J6 that their core competency is printers, printer supplies, printing services, those type of things. What we found was that across the enterprise, each one of those directors, IT directors at the different sites were ordering their own printers, their own contracts, their own service contracts, their own supplies. Now, a couple of things come to mind. Number one, better buying power. If you consolidate all those requirements into one large package, you industry generally come back and say, you give me, you know, you put more on the table, I'll sharpen my pencil. You'll get better pricing. You all agree with that in general? Okay. So right there was some savings that we could do. Number two, from an IT perspective, every one of those printers these days all have some type of a computer chip inside of them. And in a world where we all worry about, as you know, OPM showed us, you know, hackers, there are hostiles out there in the cyber world that want our information, that want to hack our systems, and they're just looking for one crack. I read an article in the Washington Post the other day that said, you know, think of the internet as a 100-mile highway, and all the bad guys have to do is find one crack in that 100 miles to exploit, and you've got to defend the entire 100 miles. So that's the world of the IT today. So having those chips electronically connected into your networks gives them a vector or an opportunity to attack. So when you've got all these different models, different makes, different manufacturers, do you know how hard it is to keep up with IAVIS and patches across the enterprise? It's hard enough. When you standardize, it's almost impossible when you've got that diversity across your enterprise. So we said, okay, under the new enterprise service area concept, Document Services, you now own all printers. You will contract for, and you will provide printers to the entire enterprise. So if we need printers in Philadelphia, then you know, you need to figure out from the customers up there how many they need, where they need them at, and you order them. And same thing with supplies. Same thing with services. So you're now responsible across the entire DLA enterprise which for DLA is about 48 states and 37 countries. You own it all. And we did the same thing for all of the other services that are arrayed under the ITEL model. We created what we call 4 enterprise service areas. Okay, so there are 4, we refer to them affectionately as ESAs. You know we got to have acronyms. It's not a briefing unless we throw a couple of them out there. So we have 4 ESAs and 4 ESA directors. So if they are responsible for video services, they're responsible across the enterprise now. So with that in mind, then we started looking at contracts. Now, a couple of years ago, I went in to see Lillian and her team, and literally for the year's projection, we were looking at a stack of, the big sheets, 14 by, 12 big sheets. It was almost 1,000 pages of contract requirements that we were projecting for the upcoming year. Most of that was driven by small individual contracts at different areas. Well, Ms. Cutler, myself, and the ESA directors, we tore through that, and we said there's got to be a better way. And that's where the vision of JETS came out of. We said, number one, we're going to consolidate those contracts so that when you buy for whatever it is, widgets, services, whatever, you are responsible for the enterprise. You need to buy with an enterprise vision in mind. So that automatically generated substantial savings for us because we did achieve that better buying power. It meant larger contracts for you all, but it also meant less work because I also listen to you all on the industry side. There's a level of effort that you're required, that you guys got to invest on every contract proposal that you bid on. Okay? There's a cost. And the more we drive that cost, then we're going to see it back in your pricing. We understand that. So if we can say we're going to consolidate our contracts and we're going to put out, they'll be larger and they'll be global literally in scope, but then when you invest, when you decided that contract, that service, that product fits within your core competency of your company, it hits your sweet spot, and you bid on it, at least you know it's a big effort and there's a return for the investment that you're making. So that led us then to work with Lillian and her team to say we want to put out a IDIQ type of a contract where we list out different task areas and we'll describe the different task areas, and they literally cover everything that we envision that we are going to do. Everything from information assurance to video teleconferencing to laying cable to just about everything that's covered by the ITEL model are covered within those task areas. And we'd like that to be the way of the future. And so that's the history behind what you're seeing today, JETS. JETS is the fruition of the birthing of a lot of effort by a lot of our folks putting together this vision that we will have this overarching IDIQ that covers all of the services that we envision that we will provide on a global basis. And that is one point that I want to foot stomp is when you sign up for this, you're signing up for any of the 48 states and 37 countries and any additional countries that we may go into. Now, that doesn't bother me. Whether you're small business, large business, it doesn't bother me. You guys will sort it out. The good companies out there will form the partnerships that they need to be able to do that. Even the small businesses will form their teaming arrangements. And we've had excellent support in our previous contracts, so I know you guys won't have a trouble with that. But that's what our expectation is. When you see us put out a task order, you're going to see us put it out, and it covers the entire enterprise for DLA, wherever we need those services, to include places like Afghanistan, to include places we go into where DLA goes into Africa, where they have Ebola and they have other things. You're going to see us put out tasks. Wherever our DLA goes, we're there to support them with communications, with IT support, and we're going to rely on our industry partners to provide those services that we can obtain through the JETS contract. So that's our vision of the future. That's how we're going to achieve cost savings. We're going to do it through better buying power that we're going to achieve off of the JETS contract, and we're going to do it by standardizing our services across our entire landscape. So it makes it less complex. Our world in IT is complex enough. I mean, it really truly is. Changes come so fast at us, and trying to keep up with all the different changes and the different versions, the different software, the new products, and it just keeps getting faster. So we're not going to reduce services to our customers. We're going to reduce the complexity of our environment using this vehicle. We're going to take on the services we provide from an enterprise perspective and provide them across. So no matter where you are in the world, if you're DLA, when you turn that end user device on, you're going to get the same level of service. Doesn't matter if you're in Afghanistan, Battle Creek, Pittsburgh, Columbus, if you're teleworking at home. That's our vision. And so JETS is the vehicle that we're going to use to get us there. So I thank you all very much for taking the time to come out today and listen and ask questions and work with the team here, because this is very, very important to us, and we look forward to a partnership with you all. Thank you.
Hey, morning, everyone. I'm Joe Marquis. I'm the DCSO Philadelphia Site Manager. So in a couple of moments, I'm going to be turning it over to Michael Iacobacci. He's the contracting officer for the JETS acquisition. So Mike will be walking through the acquisition, some of the important aspects of the RFP. And then also, we've received over 1,000 questions already on the acquisition. So we've tried to bucket those questions, and a lot of the presentation will focus on those areas. So we'll definitely be talking about contractor teaming arrangements today, because that was a focus of a lot of the questions, and some other areas where we've gotten those buckets. So you see the agenda up on the screen. So Mike's going to walk through the program, the acquisition description, the submission requirements, and the other areas that you see there. We ask that you hold all questions till the end. At the end, we're going to take about a 20-minute break. If you have questions, you can submit them in writing, and then we'll answer them after the break. Other than that, I just want to say thank you. This doesn't work without industry. We're really excited for JETS. It's something we've been working for some time, as Mr. Foster mentioned. And without our industry partners, it's not going to work. So I'm glad to see a full house today. Most of the feedback we've been getting back is very positive. Seems like industry is excited as well. So hopefully we can make this work, and it's going to be a good, successful program for both sides, government and industry. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Iacobacci, and he'll walk you through the presentation.
All right. Before I get started, just a little bit, I put this entire presentation together, once again to address the number of questions that we received. With the exception of the second slide that Lillian pointed out, that was offered by our Office of Counsel. Contracting officer's best friend is a good lawyer. So I was told that no matter what I say, it doesn't matter. I can offer free hot dogs with every proposal submission. So you submit a proposal on the 26th, we'll be ready to ship it out. You'll get it in 3 to 5 days. I just want to also recognize Christian Carpio-Wakamiya, the contract specialist over there. Without him, we wouldn't have been able to get all you folks together. 350 individuals requesting attendance, coordinating with security, coordinating with headquarters J6 personnel to make sure we got everyone in here and we're prepared for this pre-proposal conference. Just to clarify, Christian's, he is of the male gender. We know that it's a gender-neutral name. We did get a number of emails. There was Miss, Mr., some just Miss, some, Mrs., some Sir, Ma'am, a couple yo dudes, maybe a hey girlfriend, but from here on out, you want to send an email. Mike and Christian, we're not that important. No need for Mr. So with that, we can start with the program acquisition description. The acquisition, once again, it proposes a multiple award IDIQ. We're planning to satisfy all of J6 DLA information operation service needs. It's going to be more efficient, more effective than what we have now. I could get into the details of the scope, talk about the 21 task areas, but following up Mr. Foster, he's the expert on that. I'm the contracting guy. You've all received this statement of work. You know what's in there. We'll move on to the customers. Once again, it's DLA Information Operations. It's also available, if you notice in the section H of the RFP, it's available to other DoD customers. Just to clarify for any Army chess, Encore 2 holders, it's not going to be similar to that in that you're not going to have a DoD, outside DoD agency just contacting you without coming through our agency first. When these IDIQs are awarded, the DCSO Philadelphia Office of DLA will be the authorized ordering office. We may delegate that authorization when needed, but you won't have a situation where DISA-DITCO approaches you and says, I want to issue a task order off jets. Wrong. Upside down. So there's the 21 task areas. You should all be familiar with them by now. I know there's 217 subtasks. The dollar value of the proposed acquisition is a maximum value of just over $6 billion to the penny, 39 cents. That's going to be a combination of all the IDIQs awarded. Each IDIQ awarded won't have a ceiling of $6 billion. The entire program itself will. Each IDIQ issued will have a $10,000 guaranteed minimum. That includes each CTA member IDIQ. It's a multiple award IDIQ, as I mentioned before. We're going to have firm fixed price task order CLINs for the services, time and material, and firm fixed price may be available for travel and ODCs. So this is where I want to start off with a possible, a change, a possible change. It's not a change yet, just because I say it. You'll see it in the amendment. Cite that language before. So ODCs in the solicitation right now just has a firm fixed price CLIN. We're going to create another T&M CLIN for ODCs. We'll explain a little bit later. I will explain a little bit later on in the presentation the need for that. In addition, when it's possible, when the travel is exactly known, direction we've received is firm fixed price is appropriate for travel. The evaluation strategy at the IDIQ level will be a best value trade-off process. We'll use LPTA or trade-off when appropriate for task order requirements. So it'll depend based on the requirement, the importance of the requirement, what evaluation factors we use, and how we plan on evaluating those task orders. The period performance is 8 years. There's going to be one 5-year base period. Related to that, we have the language in there for the small businesses about the recertification leading up to that 5-year base expiration to maintain your small business or 8A status. And that also applies to CTA members. Any contract holder of jets will be responsible to recertify. In addition, there will be just one 3-year option period. Performance measurements and metrics. So this was certainly a hot topic when I received questions. The overall performance ratings, as you can see, begin with satisfactory. You meet the requirements of the PWS that was presented to you at the task order level. Fair, you haven't met all the requirements. You're late somewhere, you missed a task, you missed a few tasks. It's going to be a situation where the government clearly has documentation and reason for withholding that 10% payment that we cite in the solicitation. So I know some of the questions that were received said, these are kind of subjective. We feel that when you have a task order PWS, you have clear tasks, clear deliverables. These don't appear to be so subjective. You're meeting the requirements, you're getting all your payment. You're not, you're late. Well, then we look at it. You're awful is a word I like to use. You haven't met anything. You stop showing up. There's maybe one task out of 20 you're performing. Well, then we're looking at the unsatisfactory, and we're not going to pay it. And I understand that it's firm fixed price. We agree upon this up front, but it's firm fixed price. We as the government expect to get what we agree to get when that task order is issued. And this is a way that we protect ourselves if we don't get exactly what we expect. We're not going to have a situation where it's subjective, we can't measure it, but we're going to just pay you 10% because we don't like you. So, once again, it relates to the quality of the work, the timeliness of the work, as stated in the slide, and more importantly, the solicitation. So the solicitation is unrestricted. And this is where we'll get into some more of the meat. IDIQ awards are reserved for small businesses and 8As. So let me be clear about this. The CTAs, I know there's a number of questions out there. The CTAs are for other than small businesses or large, but any business that's not a small business, if you're going to propose on jets, you have to provide the CTA language set forth in the solicitation. Small businesses, 8As, if you're proposing, you don't have to submit a CTA. That's only an other than small business requirement. An 8A, a small business, you read the solicitation, can compete on all groups of the solicitation. Get into more detail with that on the next slide. Small businesses, once again, are only required to propose on task area 10 and a minimum of 7 others that they see fit, that align with their expertise, their capabilities. The other than smalls are required to submit on all 21 task areas, and that other than smalls encompasses their CTA that they submit. In addition, small businesses and 8A offers are only required to submit a labor rate in the hourly labor rate table for the categories mapped to the task areas they're proposing. So I'll touch upon it again later on, but I might as well mention it now while it's on my mind. One of the questions we got, hey, we think this task area is more appropriate or should be also, or this labor category should also be in this task area. And we understand that. If you want to, we permit you to propose additional labor categories that are in our attachment 1 for, we will permit you to propose a rate for those additional labor categories. That doesn't permit you to propose other task areas or the task areas that are mapped to that. But we will allow the flexibility for you to propose those labor rates that aren't specifically mapped to your task area if you think your company will utilize those labor categories at the task order level. But I want to alert you that part of our task order evaluation will consist of, and if anyone's familiar with the way DCSO does things, we require a work breakdown structure. So when your task order comes in, it's firm fixed price, but we want to see the labor mixture you're proposing. We want to see a breakdown of all the labor categories, the associated level of effort, and then on the pricing side, we also want to see the rate. If you propose a category that you think is appropriate for a task order, it's not necessarily mapped to those task areas, it's our technical POCs that will review that. I'm not saying they won't say you're technically acceptable, but that's a risk you take. And you can justify your labor mix, give reasons why you're proposing the mix, and you're all the experts in the field, so I'm sure you trust the proposal that you're submitting, or at that time, the quote you're submitting. So back to the CTAs, got off on a little tangent there. Other and small businesses are required to do the 40% for the IDIQ. Propose a plan that shows this is how we're going to do our 40% over the life of the contract. You can plan on you can expect that we will require 40% on each task area, or on each task order, but I'll get into more specifics on that later. All right, so the IDIQ groupings. Right now, the groups don't necessarily exist, and I want to make that clear that you're not going to submit a proposal and say, I'm proposing on Group A. How it's going to work is these are the groups that will be established immediately when the IDIQs are established. So if you're another in small business and you're proposing the CTA, you can compete on any unrestricted task order. On Group B, in Group B, if you're 100% small business, you propose, you receive an IDIQ award, and you can, as a small business, compete both in Group A and in Group B. And the reason for that is it's the definition of unrestricted. This is going to be similar to how it rolls, on a regular open market posted to Fed Biz Ops. If we think there are 2 or more capable small businesses of handling the requirement, or historically small businesses have done this and we feel they can do it again, it's going to be set aside for small business. And then all small businesses, 8As, can offer on that requirement. If it's historically been done by large or other than smalls, and we don't feel there is a small business base that can handle the requirement, it's going to be unrestricted. So small businesses are permitted to come in, but historically we've seen through coordination with our DCSO small business specialists that small businesses haven't either offered, haven't received awards, the capable base isn't there. And then to get to 8As, they're free to compete on any task order issued on jets, so unrestricted, small business set aside, but then also 8A set aside or 8A competitive. We have a number, and the reason we chose 8A, we have a number of requirements that will transition into jets that are currently in the 8A program. So we're not going to remove those requirements from the 8A program. They will continue to maintain their 8A status in the 8A program, and we will continue to send those requirements and reserve them for Group C awardees. In addition, if there was a previous small business set aside that now we feel there is an 8A base that can handle it, we reserve the right to set that aside for 8As if need be. Post-award, we're targeting to target all the total dollars obligated on jets. Out of all the total dollars, 40% will go to small business. All right, so some submission requirements. Closing date, August 26th. Like I said, we'll have our hot dogs ready, send it out to you. 5 days later. Should still be good. One of the questions, this slide particularly, this is going to handle, we had a number of questions on the submission requirements. Thought I made it clear, but I guess it wasn't that clear. The cover letter, which obviously wasn't clear in the solicitation, so we're going to amend this. The cover letter is to include attachments such as the signed SF-33, signed SF-30, Section K fill-ins, and an OCI plan if applicable, in a separate binder from the other volumes. Please just put you on alert now. There's a lot of paper involved with this acquisition. You know, it's what, 180-page RFP. When you send the signed SF-33, the signed SF-30, it just has to be the front page. Each time we amend this, and the initial solicitation, you don't have to send all 180 pages with each amendment. We'd appreciate that. So would Mother Nature. Also, the number of volumes. So that wasn't clear. There was some inconsistencies, and that's because for other than small businesses that require a subcontracting plan, you are required to submit 3 volumes: non-price, price, and the subcontracting plan, in addition to the cover letter binder, which isn't considered a volume. Small businesses in 8As, you're not required to submit a subcontracting plan, so you submit the cover letter, which is separate from the other binders, a non-price proposal, and a price proposal. Another inconsistency in the solicitation, in one area we say we're not going to accept fax in another, or electronic, but in another area we say we want an electronic. So to clarify that, the hard copy proposal that's time-stamped at our Business Opportunities Office in Philadelphia is the actual proposal that we will consider the valid proposal. Get the hard copy proposal to us on time. The electronic proposal is, given the age we live in, I think speaking to the IT industry, we understand that I'd also like an electronic copy. And that's not it should mirror the hard copy version, but it's not to be considered the version that we're going to evaluate. You can send me an electronic version, 15 megabytes or lower, every day from here till closing, but if you don't get me the hard copy by August 26th, you're not going to be evaluated. Your proposal is not going to be considered timely. If you miss the electronic version, I'll have to consult with counsel. I think this is just clarify. I'll shoot you an email and say, we got your hard copy. Can you please just send me an electronic version? And discussions won't be open at that time. Just looking for a electronic version. Exactly. Clarification. Proposals must be able to print in black and white. Statements in there. People ask questions. Must be able to print in black and white. Your proposal, the way I read that, your proposal could have color, but it must be able to print in black and white. Pages, 8.5 by 11, but after further thought and some good questions that were raised, we will allow the hourly labor rate table to be other than 8.5 by 11. And if you want to submit legal size, I think is what we will have in the amendment. It will allow us to better evaluate you. 12-point font for all body text. Another question we got, well, does that apply to graphics and tables? First of all, we want to let you know that we don't want a proposal that's just full of bells and whistles, all kinds of fancy graphics. You want to present them, that's fine. That language states body text. So keep the body text outside of those graphics, 12-point font. The graphics should be legible, as should the whole proposal. Key personnel and past performance templates must contain the requested information. So another frequently asked question was, can we modify it? Can we change it? Well, I understand that the past performance template, which we're now calling a past performance questionnaire, so we're going to be consistent. Let's get that out there. There were some questions. Hey, you're saying questionnaire. We don't see a questionnaire. The template's the questionnaire. I apologize for that inconsistency there. But back to the template. So we have, and I could bring it up here quickly. We have language in the boxes that say, in this box, please provide the description or scope of work, blah, yada, yada, yada. You can remove that. That's how you can modify it. You can, if you want, you can take those boxes and you can extend them as wide, as long as you need to fit the information in that you need to fit in. But other than that, the template isn't going to be revised. We don't want any additional information than what we're requesting. We don't want it, we want it to flow exactly how we have it, so our source selection panel, past performance panel, can get it and know exactly where to find all the information they need to look at. And that is along the lines with the key personnel. We understand that we ask for credentials in a certain area where it might not be big enough. Some of you have probably been in the industry as long as I've been alive and have a whole long narrative of what you've done. So feel free to extend that block as long as you would want. So on to the good stuff. DoD source, we're doing it in accordance with the DoD source selection procedures. It's going to be a best value trade-off process. One of the questions one of the frequently asked questions was, how many awards are we going to make in each group? How many awards are we going to make in total? It's really up to you, because we're going to issue awards to proposals that represent the best value to us. And to take it even further, one of the questions that was asked was, I'm a small business and I want to propose on 15 task areas. Am I going to get a higher score than the small business that comes in for 8 task areas? We're not comparing offers to each other. Offers will be evaluated in accordance with those procedures, the procedures that are listed in the solicitation. You will be compared, or I don't know can't think of the right word, but, well, yeah, you will be rated in accordance and basically evaluated in accordance with these and not compared to each other. The evaluation criteria, non-price factors, there's technical merit. The sub-factors, technical approach, management approach, key personnel. We'll get into more specifics on them in a little bit. We have the past performance assessment. We'll derive a confidence rating based on your past performance. There's the partnering, strategic alliance, small business participation. Our technical merit is more important than past performance. Our past performance is more important than partnering and strategic alliance and small business participation, which are equal. And non-price factors are considered more important than price. These will all be discussed in more detail in a little bit, like right now. So technical merit. We have, I think I missed my calling, didn't I? Government contracting officer isn't so bad. So, technical approach. Other than small businesses, you must demonstrate a capability of supporting all 21 task areas. This is your CTA as a whole, as we've outlined it in the solicitation. You have this company that has strengths here. Maybe the large business itself, or other than small business itself, has the capabilities to support it all. But we also want you to outline where the strengths are for your individual members. Small Business 8A offers, once again, your task area 10 and a minimum of 7 additional task areas. You're not going to receive a better score for submitting more task areas. You propose whatever you feel your expertise and capability fits into the task areas. You will be compared and evaluated in accordance with the procedures that we set forth in the solicitation and any subsequent amendment. Management approach, we want to see that, so the first part is we want to see that you have the expertise that you can handle this. This is a huge vehicle. Or you've compiled a team. So when I say team, I know I said before, small business in 8 days, you're not required to submit a contractor team arrangement. You're not required to submit the CTA as we've laid it out. However, we understand that you're going to have to compile, in many cases you may have to compile a team, which will be traditional subcontractors, you may call them partners, in order to show that you have an expertise across 8 task areas. So that's technical merit. We want to make sure you're experts, or technical approach. Management approach, we want to make sure that you can manage an acquisition of this size. And that can be you in conjunction with your other CTA members, or if you're small in 8A, in conjunction with your subcontractors. Provide exactly what's required. We have the different management plans. Key personnel. We want to make sure now, it's changed a little bit, that you have the individual or individuals that could manage the program and have the expertise, the education, the background, the certs that we request to manage the IDIQ. So after further review, probably, frequently asked question number 3 or 4 was the task order project manager. So originally, the thought process was we want to see resumes for every possible person you will have to manage a task order. If you got 21 different for 21 task areas, we want to see those resumes. We understand, after receiving a number of questions, I get the picture, I want to work with you. Like Mr. Foster said, we have DLA has requirements, but we want to work with industry, build this team. So we understand that the task order project manager was a bit of a stretch as far as requiring at the IDIQ level. So now it's just the program manager. But be aware that for individual task orders, as is stated in the solicitation, the task order project manager will, in many cases, be identified as key personnel. So at the task order level, we may be asking for that resume that has to be in accordance with, at minimum, the language that you see in the solicitation now. There may be other categories to go a step further. Analysts, engineers, that depending on the requirement, we may consider them key personnel for that requirement. And we'll require resumes at that time. So that's why we have attachment 1, give you a clear description, not only so you can provide pricing now at the IDIQ level, but so that you know, we're not requiring it, we're not looking at the resume now, but you know it could be required. So be prepared to have someone or multiple people on board. And to take that a step further, the program manager that now is the only key personnel, we want one resume at minimum, but if you envision multiple people acting as the program manager for your company, then submit multiple resumes. They all must fit the requirements, but you're not limited to one. We just need at least one, and they have to obviously meet the requirements stated. Past performance. We're requiring that you provide a minimum of 2 prior contracts for services which are relevant and recent, in which you were the prime contractor. So that means you're another in small business, you're a CTA, you got to provide 2 of your own that you've primed. Now, one of the questions was, well, can I provide a question, or can I provide an example where I was a subcontractor as my own? And the answer is no. Given the size, the scope, capability we're looking for, we feel that it's not unreasonable to request that any business provide 2 contracts where you've been a prime contractor. In addition, you can provide up to 8 more records for a total of 10 that could be from your team members if you're a CTA, your partners, your subcontractors, that in the end, amongst those 10, must in some way align to the task areas you're proposing. Question about relevancy came up a number of times. So what's relevant? Scope, size. This is a big acquisition. I'm a small business. You know how much $6 billion is? I get it. So if you're another than small business, you're submitting a proposal for all 21 task areas. We expect to see records that show a size and scope that we as the government can consider relevant for those 21 task areas combined. For small businesses, we're going to, when combined, the records should reflect the task areas that you're proposing. Obviously, once again, something this size, we want to see that there's a capability of handling high dollar value, complex acquisitions. I'm not going to stand up here and give you an exact dollar amount. Everyone will be rated consistently, but that's the answer you're getting at this time. Relevancy or recency is within the last 3 years of the issuance of the solicitation. So I guess that's another inconsistency. Put the amendment light on. That'll be in the amendment. We'll change. I think there was 2 dates. One says issuance, one says initial closing date. It's going to be on the date of the issuance, which was July 10th, 2015, on that magical Friday afternoon. Submission requirements. Completed past performance questionnaire. That's my fault. I did these slides. Questionnaire now, but it hasn't been changed. Also, within that questionnaire, another FAQ. We're not going to require a signature and a rating on the questionnaire. Got a lot of questions about how, all right, we're asking for this rating letter on a letterhead. Then you're asking for the signature and the rating here also. What's up, government? So we'll simplify it a little bit more for you. We do want the letter. We want the signature on the letter. Per the requirements of the solicitation, the letter must state, let's have a subject or some kind of reference to the contract number. So-and-so, company ABC was rated marginal for this contract. Signed, sent in. We expect you to send that marginal record into us. It may be exceptional, but in addition to that, we will clarify that the ratings that were once in the questionnaire that have now been removed, but we'll spell them out in the solicitation. The ratings are in accordance with the CPARS definition. So in the solicitation, we're not going to spell out what that rating definition is for the adjective, but we will state that it's in accordance with how it's defined in CPARS. So if it's a record where it's been in private industry and that company isn't aware of the CPARS, well, you can spoon feed them the definitions and let them know what they are, and they'll decide what they want to rate you for that performance record. And then in addition, there's also the narrative that we require, which is on page 131 of the solicitation for each contract. It describes the relevancy, how you think it's relevant to jets, whether it's government or private, and off the top of my head, I can't think of what the other requirements are, but it's on page 131. Next slide. Partnering in strategic alliance. So because of the way we've set this up, we understand that, especially for smalls and 8As, you're going to be compiling a team. Once again, I don't want to confuse this with the CTA, but you may be compiling a team of contractors, subcontractors, and we want to be able to see that you have effective agreements, you have a way of managing your subcontractors, managing that team. So the Partnering Strategic Alliance applies to everything. CTA proposals or other and small businesses, they can include their CTAs in this section in addition to subcontractors and partners of any kind that they wish to disclose in that requirement or in that factor. And then the small business participation. So this is in accordance with DFARS regulations. If DoD contract, I don't know if there's a size that trips it. My DFARS, I read it last night, but you know what? I fell asleep, and I'll pick it up again tomorrow. So the most important thing is, though, it's required for a non-LPTA acquisition, and especially of this size. So this isn't something that DLA just came up with and said, hey, we're going to throw in some additional requirements that we just want to subject industry to. The small business participation for CTAs, it applies to that 60% that you're left over after you show an allocation of 40%. For small businesses, the 25% you can handle, you can use as your own work. So if if you're, performing any kind of service on your own, or, you can use that 25% work. So we're not expecting a small business to subcontract 25% to another small business. However, we do want to see goals for a small business to subcontract the 5%, the 5%, the 3%, and the 3% up there to the different socioeconomic subcategories. These are goals. They're not going to be reviewed on every task order requirement. We want to see the goals up front. On a yearly basis, in accordance with Section H, you're going to be required to submit a document that shows, hey, this is what I did this year. If you're not in accordance with the percentages, we reserve the right to assess that in CPARs. There's a section in CPARs talks specifically about small business subcontracting or small business participation. We'll rate it there. Once again, the requirement's separate from CTAs. So I know there's other than small businesses out there that are saying, well, you just took one piece of my pie, and now you're telling me I got to take another piece of it and give more to small business. And yes, that's what we're doing. The way CTAs are laid out, they're considered prime awards because everyone has an IDIQ. We can't consider that subcontracting. But once again, this isn't going to be looked at on each individual task order. We're not going to come out with a task order and say, we want to see your breakdown now again on the 25% for this task order. We want to look at it on an annual basis and make sure that you're complying. Price. First one's a big one. Total price, not going to be evaluated. I know there was that option area. I'm not as good at my job as I thought I was. So I missed the total price there. We're removing that via amendment. In addition, Schedule B CLINs, they're for administrative purposes only. We're not requiring a price for each CLIN. We're not requiring a price for ODC's travel up front. All those ODC travel requirements will be set forth in a task order requirement. So I know probably some of you are thinking, what's DLA doing here? Multiple award IDIQ, total price, you're not looking at it? Never seen this before. Well, we've actually received examples in industry right now that have been solicited that really treat the rates as the price being offered. That's what we're holding you to, a ceiling rate. We can multiply it by some estimated hours that we come up with to derive a total price, but will it really be meaningful? And this was a discussion that was had with government personnel, DOD personnel, not just within DOD or DLA. We feel the rates are what is important. So then the other question is, well, you're doing a trade-off process, but how is this trade-off if you're not really looking at price? Well, we're looking at rates. We want to make sure the rates are fair and reasonable, but trade-off also factors in a trade-off amongst all the non-price factors. So it's not just, we want to see, like I said before, we want to see that you have the capability, the expertise, the management approach to handle this. Provide me fair and reasonable pricing, please. Makes my life a lot easier. But it's the technical, non-price factors that are really important to us. Mr. Foster was up here speaking before, and he drove that home. We want the best and the brightest of the industry to come together and satisfy our requirements. And we think that's out there in the audience right now and streaming across the world. There's probably millions of them out there. Everyone has their 10, 15 minutes of fame. This is my chance. I'll probably be on YouTube later on, who knows? So the hourly labor rate table. It's going to be utilized for pricing. Stated that before. Contractors will be required to provide a ceiling rate. CTAs, in their entirety, must propose a rate for every category. So what that means is, even the CTA lead doesn't need to have a rate for every category. But when we get to from CTA lead to the 4 members, all those categories must be covered. In addition to that, CTA members can have their own rate. So you can have a number of rates for systems analyst, a systems engineer, the program manager. You can have a number of rates. Each one of those rates must be determined fair and reasonable. How will we evaluate them? That's how we're going to evaluate them. It's not we're going to take the highest, we're going to take the lowest. We're going to look at them all. And we want to make sure that every rate that is offered is fair and reasonable. And we'll use techniques in accordance with 4 Part 15, 404, I think it's B1, and we're going to look at competition. We have historical requirements. We're going to look at a number of things, make sure they're fair and reasonable. Small business offers, once again, you must propose a rate for every category that's assigned or mapped to the task areas you're proposing. We are permitting that you propose rates for other categories that aren't mapped to those task areas. However, those rates must be determined fair and reasonable. And like I said before, there's a risk when you propose that rate at the task order level that that labor mix may not be considered appropriate by our technical expert. Or it may. I'm not saying that you're definitely going out on a limb and saying, or in proposing a category that's not mapped to the task area. Like I said, you're the experts. You know the requirements. You can put forth your best proposal or quote. OCONUS requirements. So this was another frequently asked question. And this will be in the amendment, or if it's not, doesn't matter. Don't listen to it. You'll get free hot dogs. OCONUS requirements should be considered in the ceiling rate. One of the reasons, as I cited before, about the ODCs, possible T&M, possible firm fixed price, we're going to put language in the RFP via the amendment that states ODCs will handle OCONUS costs, such as the cost of living, such as other cost expenses that are associated with OCONUS. And the main reason, I know Mr. Foster had stated, we have 37 countries, I believe, a presence in, and be prepared. There may be a requirement for any one of those 37 countries or multiple, but in the end, they are infrequent. Most of what you will see will be the locations specifically noted on that in the RFP, in that table. Headquarters here, Fort Belvoir, Philadelphia, Columbus, Richmond, Battle Creek, Utah, wherever else we are. So we don't want to, what we want to avoid is we want to avoid every rate being 30, 40% higher than it should be, just because you guys want to cover yourselves for OCONUS requirements. And we understand that. So we want to state that up front. Just don't do it. We don't need it, and we'll make that clear. Price analysis will be performed on individual task orders. As I stated before, the way our office does it, we require what we refer to as a work breakdown structure. It has the category, so when you propose, it'll be one of the 134 categories, or, several 134 categories, the level of effort associated with that category, and whichever rate you're proposing for that category in accordance with the ceiling rate. Can't exceed the ceiling rate. You can obviously go as far below it as you want. Contractor teaming arrangement. It's not really a busy slide for as many concerns as there are. But we want to let you know that there it says large business offers. I know it's kind of semantics, but we're really saying other than small. So if you're considered a mid-sized company, you have to submit a CTA. A lot of the questions are, why are we doing this? We know the CTA in GSA for Part 8. What's DLA doing here? We have a number of requirements right now, a number of CTA IDIQs that exist. And a lot of those requirements are going to transition into jets when those IDIQs expire. I'm not going to tell you which ones. Offhand, I know a good portion of them. I don't know them all. But this is what exists now. So the Jets vehicle isn't going to take that requirement and now make it 100% for large business because it's unrestricted. We want to keep it as it is now. We also want to extend that CTA opportunity to other unrestricted task orders that we have now that we think might be appropriate for some CTA